Okay, this was not the video I had planned for today. I'll get to that. I was going to do a profile of one of the cases. You know, why am I doing a YouTube channel about a book collection? I don't know. It's a way to talk about books. It's my way into the world of books, plus the library, etc. And I don't know. Maybe it would be a meditation on book collections and physical media and things like that over time too. But the one I want to do today is, since I'm still on this paperback case wavelength, I went through and I took out all the doubles. And it was kind of painful because like there were 2 copies of House of Seven Gables, and I'm like, I like both of these. They're both so pretty. But I kept the one that I thought would be best for this project. And I'm going to give the oldest one, the other one. I say oldest because it's one I've been packing around since I was a kid. It's been in my family's collection and my collection. And if I ever read it, it was a long time ago. I think I read it as a kid. But I happen to know a direct descendant of Nathaniel Hawthorne that I used to work at a Domino's Pizza with. And he now works at a Kiva Juice. And I think he's like a manager. He's like a very capable, responsible, awesome person. So I'm going to give that to him. He was just telling me his mom just recently inherited Nathaniel Hawthorne's writing desk. Like their family is like in direct line. And I think that's so interesting. I've seen some quotes about wage slavery going around Twitter from Nathaniel Hawthorne too. And I'm like, how fascinating that your descendant knows of that world and how interconnected we all are in the worlds of literature. And I love it. So anyway, I'm going to give him that copy next time I go to Kiva Juice. He's a cool guy. Had a good time working at the same place as him. We talk books and stuff. At that same Domino's, there was another employee who was a descendant of the first portrait photographer from some big city in Texas. Where was that from? I want to say Corpus Christi. But he was this famous African-American portrait photographer, his ancestor. So it was kind of cool having an awareness of my own family history in the West, etc., and talking with those cats. And anyway, it's very interesting. Also working at that Domino's was one of the oldest Albuquerque street artists, and he knew all about graffiti in the late 80s, which is like a barely documented scene in Albuquerque. Learned a lot from that guy. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry, 3 minutes on why I gave that away. So yeah, there were some doubles. Sinclair Lewis, Middlemarch. What was the other one? Oh, that House of Seven Gables. Something else too. Gave those away. Or at least they're in a pile by the door to give away. And so that left a gap. I found a couple from other sections that I brought over. I bought one the other night, that Man in the Iron Mask. I added. So, some things I'm going to do to this shelf, because it's kind of interesting. I'm going to refine and improve this case as I read it, so that it reflects as diverse as possible. Like, I want to get Amos Tuotola's The Palm Wine Drinkard and My Life in the Bush of Ghosts, and add that, because that's a great African work. I want to add some things from Africa, and there's a few Asian books in here already, but maybe the Americas. There's a couple from South America, but just continue to just diversify it a little bit. This does reflect the books that have been available to me through bargain bins, etc., as a white middle-class adjacent male living at the twilight of American Empire. So some of the lack of diversity should be taken up with society at large. But, I'm sure I've had Anglophile inclinations cultivated in me. My sister came home from India, interestingly, as an exchange student, obsessed with P.G. Wodehouse as one of the things, and got our whole family into that author. but he's like a very like upper class British writer. What else? Oh, I'm gonna replace. I have some that I've kept just because it's like, well, I want that though. I tend to get rid of books when they're in bad condition or something. Like this Tristram Shandy is all taped up. I'll get a nicer copy of that. That one's around. Ditto with You Can't Go Home Again from Thomas Wolfe. I don't like ugly taped up stuff. That Tolstoy I can maybe keep. I need to. Some of these need some tape a little bit. That'll be another thing I do. What else? I tend not to keep books in really bad condition unless they have sentimental, personally historic reasons. Like that one will evade whatever purge because I have backstory with it. It's the only book at a commercial fishing camp that I worked at. So any downtime we had in the lobby, I'm like, well, there's that book. Let's see. Oh, yeah, and so anything that's kind of in crappy condition, which most of that sort of stuff survived the purge. Richard Brodigan, I've got one here that's split into 2 parts. I will definitely look for a nicer copy of that. I want this effort to improve this case. It'll make it more eclectic. Oh, here's another thing. I think I have 2 of the 3 books in a trilogy by Conrad Richter here. I'm going to need to get that 3rd one. What else? Yeah. Oh, here's another. I want a better Lermontov, Hero of Our Time. I want that same edition, though, because I love that cover, and the translation seems good. I think that is an Edward Gorey cover. He turns up in some good old covers. Got one called The Puritans that he did a great cover for. Nonfiction. Yeah, so improve the condition of a few of them by taping them up. What's the other thing? Replace some of the crappiest ones. And again, I have like 5 years to do all of these changes. I do want to fill that gap soon. Next time I'm at a thrift store or two, I'll get some fiction novels. I need to write down a list of what Shakespeare I have. I stopped buying them at thrift stores because I couldn't remember which ones I had and which one I didn't. But yeah, wouldn't that be cool to have a nice paperback with commentary of every Shakespeare play? Like I have a big collected work, a couple of them actually. One that was my dad's when he was younger, and one that was assigned to me in college. But that's not as fun. You know, paperbacks. I remember meeting this old guy when I was on a long canoe trip in 1999 or 2000. He was all, I read all the works of Shakespeare and they're crap. Garbage. Bunch of phony stuff. They want you to think they're smart. You know, people say they think it's good. Like, maybe you should have seen them all performed and then had some conversations with a Shakespeare scholar. Some people go in just totally ignorant, not knowing what they're encountering, and think their subjective experience is enough to totally dismiss something. I was bored by it the one time I saw it. And they repeat that dumb anecdote every gathering for the next 10 years. And it's like, you know, every time you encounter a work, you're different, right? You know that you can't know a text completely from one reading, right? You know, like Nabokov, and I know I was saying negative stuff about him in the last video, but I like this quote from him. He said, the only good reading is rereading. And I don't know about the only, but that is definitely the quality reading, you know. And that guy, even though I think he was the CEO or of a major company, I later found out. He's very wrong about Shakespeare. Like, when I don't understand it when people are super negative about something that you have already expressed that you got a lot out of. You know, like, you know, when people like completely dismiss the value or merit of a work, and it's like, yeah, you're saying it's boring, but I wasn't bored by it. You're saying it's stupid, but like I learned all these things from it. You're, you know, like just dismissing it in whatever way. I completely enjoyed it. Don't yuck my yum is a useful phrase. Just as I think the Song to Woody from Bob Dylan on his first album shows that people are at their best when they're talking with love about people they care about and love and that have influenced them. I think people are at their worst when they're just griping stupidly about stuff, you know. It can be funny and interesting and even useful, criticism, etc. But, you know, try to meet something on its merits or lack of. I have a personal lens that I call the perfection lens. It's kind of like a theory lens. There's probably some other name for it and someone else has developed it independently, but it's just something that I think about. And it's that even a poorly made work perfectly expresses its creator. And if you're able to do a little research and peel back the layers and search for context, historical, social, political, emotional, you know, like psychological, whatever, you can get something out of the work. My kids once said to me about something, oh, that sucks, but you'd probably find some way to like it. And I told that anecdote to my brother, Rob, and he was like, that's funny. One of my kids told me recently, oh, it's great, but about something. But you'd probably find some way not to like it. So both have their value, you know, being able to be critical and deconstruct. But I mean, I could say the same thing that my brother's kid said about him, about me sometime. But I do think this lens, this perfection lens, is a great idea for appreciating a work. It means you can encounter low and high culture and still get really meaningful, intellectual, and emotional meaning out of something. Different works exist for different reasons, you know? Like, here's this is a more highfalutin literary shelf here that is the subject of this project. But I hold my sci-fi shelf out there, which has fantasy and horror with it, in very high regard as well, just a different sort of regard. And, you know, that is a literature of ideas, and it's fun. And world building really is a key aspect of all writing. And, you know, it's all part of the nonfiction multiverse. You know, it all reveals something about the people that exist in reality. All fiction. I don't know. It's so good. There's an E.L. Doctorow book in here who I've never read, but he famously said, we go to history to know what happened and to fiction to find out how it felt. I try to combine those things in my work. You know, I want nonfiction that gives you the feeling too. But memoir, of course, is different than journalistic or more repertorial type stuff. Okay, some thoughts on improvements that will be made to this case as I go along. I just add the John Cheever book too. So that means I now have 2 of him in here. I was doing this project with John Cheever where I was like, I wonder, what if I read every book about John Cheever before I read his work? How would that shape how I experienced his work? So I did the half where I read every book about him, and then I never got to the novel or the short stories. So I've read several books on John Cheever, read his daughter's memoir about him, and I find him an interesting figure, and I always like learning about writers, but I have not read his work. I like to do little experiments as a writer. You can see the like is getting put with like more. Okay, that's long enough for this video. Just gonna keep posting about these every day. Build up a strange bodies of work as fractal and prismatic as a book collection is. A bunch of little videos looking at it, talking about it, reading it, getting excited about it. Not many comments yet on this channel, but if there are some, I'll respond to. What's up? All right, latest.